It is Sunday. It is 8 p.m. It's time for the sit down with LB. Hello again. It's LB here, back for the sit down with LB. Thank you all for joining me again. It is so nice to be with you all. Thank you for the support. Thank you for tuning in. When I when I think about this show and some of the guests that I've had, it's just been a lot of fun for me to get to know these people better. And so this has been a pretty good week. I know some people who follow me on social media saw that I had I recognized that someone that I had worked with not long passed away, and so that was very sad to hear. But I'm still trying to stay in positive spirits, and so I definitely had to get up because I am in the presence of operatic royalty. And I said that before. I was chatting with Her Highness, as I call her. And so I really am. I am so honored to be joined by phone by the wonderful, amazing Martina Arroyo. Hello, Miss Arroyo. How are you?
Darling, how are you?
I'm good. And yourself? How are you? You're handling these COVID times?
Well, who goes out to find out how I'm handling it? We're stuck inside, only able to see a little bit of television, and when we're lucky to have a radio broadcast with you.
Well, that's very, very kind. I know you could be doing a lot of other things, but you decided to spend time with me. So I am so happy to be joining you by phone. And so a lot of people don't know this, but I have known you for 24 years. Now I'm dating myself because you're still young.
Is it necessary for you to talk like that?
Is it necessary for me to, I want to tell the truth. And so it's 24 years, I can't believe, since my time at Indiana University. And so I've seen you several times over the years after we both left IU. And so it's like we never missed a step. And so I'm just very, very happy to be having this conversation. Let's jump right into it if we will. Can we talk about your beginnings in music? I know you're from New York City. Would you talk about how you started this journey to become an opera singer?
Well, I didn't want to be an opera singer at first. I wanted to be a school teacher. And
Yes.
I attended the high school of Hunter College, and there the opera workshop used to meet, and I met the director who heard me sing in French, which was a disaster, but he was nice enough to accept me into the group. And that it started like that. It wasn't any sort of grand entry into the profession at all.
But
And
you
sorry.
but so not at home, you weren't singing, by the Victrola or anything else like that. You didn't have
Oh,
the
we
metro.
had a radio. Man, we didn't have any old Victrola. God.
But of course, being in New York City, art is all around there, and so you had to be influenced in some type of way, or did your teacher just discover that you had a wonderful voice?
No, I had the classical music all around, not just opera. My father used to laugh at me when I sang what he called the ho the whole stuff, but it was there, and my mother encouraged it, and along with popular music and dancing like the other girls were doing at the time as well.
So you did dance. I understood you took
Oh,
ballet.
yeah. Yes. Oh gosh, you don't have to talk about that. Yes, I did. Gee.
Well,
Apparently, you
I,
want this thing to go on, don't you?
But this, I think it speaks pretty, it talks about your discipline and the idea that, you were the complete artist. And a lot of these, the singers of the past were singers as well as dancers. So you were your dancing was equal to your singing?
Of course not, but we should wait and let the people stop laughing, and then you can go on.
How long did you take ballet, if I may ask that?
13 years.
13
And
years.
you laugh now.
13 years. Oh my gosh. And did you ever once have a dream to be, on the New York City ballet stage?
No, not really. Can you
Really?
imagine being on a ballet in a tutu? Be honest, can you imagine that?
Yes, I can.
Larry, next question.
I can totally imagine that. People are saying Mark and Sadie Rucker, they're saying hello. And I have a lot of people in the chat window who are saying, we love Martina and she sounds so fresh and so young. And for me, you're always, still as young as when I met you the first time 24 years ago. Yes, I'm dating myself. And so.
Yes, I spoke with Mark and Sadie. They're both doing well. We're hoping to see many of the young people that we've seen in the past again next year when we open up again. And we hope that we will open up.
Oh,
we know we will.
We must open up. We must open up. And I am so excited. I miss the stage. And so for me, I'm sure many of your students have told you the same thing. And the energy that you get from the stage, when you were away from it, didn't you miss it yourself?
I still do.
You do?
Yes, I miss it very much.
I mean, your life was built around, your career was, how many years professionally did you sing, if I may ask that? And I don't want you to date yourself.
Away from a number of years and talk about something that's either now or past completely. My gosh.
Well, you're still so young. You know that. But you sang, here's a question. A lot of people say that you sang, a part of the golden age of singing and had so many contemporaries, and you sang with all the wonderful singers that we admire. What was that experience like, being able to share the stage with people like, of course, Richard Tucker, and of course, one of my favorites, Pavarotti? What was it like to be on the stage with them, if I may ask you?
Because they were usually the most wonderful people in the world, easy to work with. All the stories you hear about singers didn't happen when I was on stage with them, so I don't know when it happened. But Luciano, Placido, Cheryl Mills is still out there. It's amazing how much, and we loved each other. We really did. It was a brotherhood.
Yes, but even I know some of these people are still your friends today. I talked to Cheryl Mills from time to time, and of course I've talked with Placido Domingo, and all of them love you. But just living in that era, you said you were a family. There was a family atmosphere, and do you think that has changed over time? That it's a lot different today than it was in the past when you were singing on stages?
Well, I don't know, but I hope not, because we used to eat together and go out together, not as girlfriend and boyfriend, but just as pals.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed that very much.
Yes. Here's a question for you. So you said you went to Hunter College, and there you studied Romance languages?
Yes. I also went to Hunter College High School, which is where I started singing.
Yes, and so there, when you study Romance languages, was it with the idea that you would be a teacher of languages, or what was your plans before you decided that you wanted to be an opera singer?
I think that, I don't know. I don't know what I thought at that time. I was really involved with becoming a singer, but also learning to be a teacher and wanting to have the proper training to be a teacher. I also worked as a social worker for a couple of years while studying music at the same time. I think that young people should not narrow them down into one area and not allow themselves to think of other possibilities before making a final choice. And I did that. But it was because at that time you could do it. I didn't have to make any choice of being a singer or a family earner. There are not many people that have that privilege.
Hmm.
So it was nice that I could go home and I still had a mother and father who were there.
Yes. And let me ask you this: your last name is Arroyo, and so your father is from Puerto Rico. Was from Puerto Rico.
My father was
He was from Puerto Rico, and your mother was from the States, as I understand,
South Carolina,
from North Carolina,
Charleston, South Carolina.
South Carolina. And
It's in,
so, was your father first generation in the United States, or was he? Did he come from Puerto Rico? Did he was he born there?
I don't know if he's first generation American. I don't remember that. He
Wow.
was certainly American by the time I got here.
So you spoke English at home or some Spanish too?
I taught Spanish too. We had to. My aunts didn't speak English,
Oh
so
wow.
and my cousins did speak English. So
So, oh my. Early on you had both languages.
yes,
And over the
but not
years you've
both languages because I spoke with my aunts because they only spoke English, and as they learned English, then we went right into English. And
yes.
cousins as well.
And so over the years you've picked up which other languages, if I may ask?
Well, I did not pick up. I learned Italian,
Mm-hmm.
French. My French is very bad, so don't even, I shouldn't call that a language at all. Um, but it was not because I wanted to be a singer. It was because it was just something you did. There was a new language. You wanted to be a part of it. And you sort of taught yourself and listened. I was curious, and I was also singing in Italian, so it was very important that I learned the language.
Yeah. So let's go beyond Hunter College. And so when it came to you were studying with your teacher, was it Gruvich was her name?
Gravage.
Gravich. And
Gravage.
so Gurevich.
Hmm.
And so this person, she heard your voice, your angelic voice, and said, "You absolutely are meant to be on the stage." But in the
No, I
beginning of
said to her, and then she said, "You are absolutely meant to be on it." No, she gave me lessons in the beginning. I was 14.
yes,
Didn't know that anything was going to happen. She thought, "Let's see," like everyone else at that time.
and so, but she obviously heard a quality in your voice that she thought was important for the big stage. Yes.
I think so. She encouraged my singing, but she also encouraged my getting my career as a teacher in order too.
Mm-hmm.
She was not the one who thought that you had to make it as a singer. No,
Oh, so she just wanted to see you succeed in whichever career
she
you were going to.
encouraged you keep studying, you keep working. Don't choose right now. Go at all of it and then see what happens. She was a very smart lady.
Yes, well, that's great advice. And clearly, as you begin to show more and more and more promise, and when you began to turn heads, and everyone noticed that you had this world class voice, you
Oh,
weren't
they
that.
didn't touch their heads because of my voice. What's been talking to you?
Well, I mean, your voice is what it is, and I've listened to you sing over the years, but I went down memory lane and I listened to a bunch of your singing, and I just thought angelic. And so, did you ever have that opinion of your voice, or it just what it was what it was?
I think it was a natural voice. She didn't develop a voice. She helped train it. But it was. I sang in church long before I started taking voice lessons, and I sang with the children's choir, as a matter of fact. And I loved singing all of my life.
Yes, but the thing that I notice about your singing is the high is so easy. It's so easy. Has it always been that accessible and that easy?
I guess so.
It was just natural.
I think so. And she said there was no special work done on the high except to make sure that I was on pitch and that that it was properly in the phrasing of the language, whatever I was singing, that it was properly produced.
Yes. Well, that's the sign of a good teacher to not, and you've taught for many years and you still continue to teach and work at your foundation, is I
Hmm.
think the mark of a good teacher is not to mess up something that works.
That
Yes?
that working on it, so you might point out something that they might do, regularly that you don't do on a regular basis because you're singing naturally. But you certainly don't want to discourage any work that is natural,
Mm-hmm.
and you want the person to feel good about their natural singing as well as a learned sort of. I've learned to sing this way.
Mm-hmm. Mark Rucker says, ask Martina about getting caught mocking singers in high school.
Oh, did Mark say? What? What could I tell you about that?
Were you good at impersonating voices or singers when you were in high school?
I guess I was.
What singers did you impersonate or mock? Which?
Well, mainly the kids in the class of the opera workshop. I'd go into the class and then I'd come out and meet some of my other friends and sing like them. But that wasn't mocking. It was sort of having fun with being with another part of my life because I was studying to be a school teacher all that time.
Yes.
You
Can
know.
I?
Hmm?
I said I was going to ask you. So I know that you say that you weren't serious about singing in the beginning because as a black woman, you didn't see so many examples. I know that there were
I
some.
wasn't serious in the beginning, not because I was black, because if I had thought about that, I would have really gone after it. But the teaching would have been more secure, whereas I
Yes,
wasn't sure that being a singer was necessarily the securest way I could go. But when it started to be secure, then of course I stayed with the singing.
yes, and
You don't
you
do
stay
anything because you don't do anything because the odds are against you or because it's going to become difficult. You go after it more than. Then if
absolutely
someone says you cannot sing, oh yes I can.
exactly. You do it because, in spite of them, you do
That's
it because
exactly right.
they are keeping you from it.
Provided you have the talent to back you up.
Of course. And the talent has to be natural and it has to be something that we can't manufacture talent. It is something that you either have or you're not. We can cultivate talent, but as a gift that we have, it is something that I think is God given. Yes.
That's right. Sing for me right now.
I don't know if you want to hear me sing right now. I have a little bit of
I'd love to hear you sing now.
I have some COVID voice as we've been calling it.
There's nothing but COVID going around right now, so it'll be understood.
Now, when was the first time? Was it Zurich? Was the first time that you went over? You went over to Europe to sing or to work in your career? Was it Zurich?
Sang in Zurich at the opera.
And so, how many? Yes,
I eated myself to death.
but Zurich,
Go right into the aria. Ta-da!
was that so much different? I mean, clearly, back then, it wasn't that long ago. I don't want to say it that way, but was it a real transition for you going from the States to Zurich then?
Well, of course, it was a transition being without my family, and because I was very close to my mother and father and brother, so it meant something to be away from the family, and I went back very often because of it. But yes, it was a different way. I had to learn to live with other people in another language in another country. But they were very helpful people too, and they made me love doing what I was doing and with them.
Yes. And do you remember the first thing you did when you went over to Zurich?
Aida.
Aida. Let's talk
Yes,
about let's
I
talk
did many places.
let's talk about Aida. Now, I
Okay.
know that it was one of the roles that was very, very important for you.
Yes.
And of course, when you hear it and you hear people sing it today, it brings back memories, I'm sure. Is that correct?
Of course. Of course. Nice memories.
Do you
Oh, I
rem
just don't hear anything of the past, but listen to the people that are singing it now and enjoy it because I had sung it.
Yes. And you know every millisecond of that role. Of course, you've performed it so many times.
Well, let's not exaggerate. I know it well enough. God.
Do you remember? Can you? I know it's hard to say because you probably had so many wonderful performances of it. Do you remember one of the time that you felt like you were the most satisfied with the performance of Aida?
No, no, was never. No, I was never so satisfied with any of my performances.
You were never satisfied?
No,
Really?
so satisfied. Yeah, there was always something that could be worked on. There was something that happened that night that shouldn't have happened, or some. No, I didn't feel. I didn't go off feeling self-content about what had happened that evening. But I didn't go off feeling badly. I used to learn. I learned to enjoy the evening and to enjoy my colleagues and to enjoy having performed for people. Yes, of course.
I say all the time that for me, I never try to go out and have a perfect performance because I don't think that's quantifiable. But what's more important for me is to try to create special moments.
And also special moments in the life of that person, whatever part they're playing, whatever is happening in that life, to make that live, not just the voice, but the intention that the voice is giving, the story the voice is telling. That's extremely important.
Extremely important. And of course, with what you're teaching, I took your role preparation class way back in the day at Indiana University, and I remember you stressed that. Uh,
The first one.
but have you always felt inspired to give that to students, to talk about the whole role and that the acting is just as important or more important as the singing?
Well, I felt that it was most important, but I can't say that I was an actress of any renown. My acting was probably not particularly good at all, but I was always in the part myself, even if it didn't come over that way. I knew it was important to be that person to try to relate the what she was trying to relate with her songs, and she didn't. You didn't. I didn't do it as another person. I tried to make it a part of Martina's personality.
Well, I remember you told us it was about intention in
Yes.
the words and meaning. Of course, you have to understand what you're saying, but intention was so important, and that's what I remember from that class.
And you have to know what you're saying. You can't walk on stage and mess around with words. You have to know the exact meaning for them to have meaning for someone else who hears you.
Yes. Now, I know you did Aida many, many times, but
Yes.
do you think that Aida was the role that you were born to sing, or is there another role that you think that was the role that I was absolutely born to sing? If you had to pick one.
Yes, but if you ask me which role it is, I wouldn't know what to answer you. I would probably think it's the role that I'm singing at that moment. But I thought Aida was extremely important in my life, and you have to know everything you're singing, every word you're saying. I mean, you have to make that part live for you. Um, but I can't say that she was my all in all character. I think I enjoyed singing Elsa as much,
Mm-hmm.
Leonora as much. I think well, it's important that you make these characters, you make them your life, give them your life, and you take life from them, and what you give to the public is the final result.
Right.
Um, and sometimes it happens, and sometimes it doesn't happen. But it's most important that there's more than voice going out to that audience.
Absolutely. And even though, we try to infuse these characters and some people will tell you to give them names and give them a history to try to be able to relate in a better way with who that character is. Um, it's
How do you
really,
give their name and give them history in your performance?
well, some people have said, if you're singing the role, for example, of Aida, and you
Mhm.
already know the story, but then to give her a history leading up to that moment that you have on stage. And even if you have the historical information, the last 15 minutes, what did Aida do before she walked on stage? Or to try to give some subtext or some meaning underneath what it was to be able to better understand who that person was and to live in their skin, as you were saying in some degree.
Yes, but I don't think that you necessarily go out to show the public that you know it. If it's in your personality, if you've absorbed this, it shows.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do anything to say, "Oh, this is the way Aida would have acted, not Martina." That makes no sense.
Right. Right. You have to make it your own. I sang at Indiana. I sang a role, and we had a stage director named Irving Gutman who came down, and he looked at me and he saw that I wasn't that tall, and that I had a permanent suntan, if you want to call it that. That I and he told me, you have to learn how to be believable as a prince. You have to learn how to be believable as a royal person, because if it's, someone may look at you and say you weren't built for that. But one of the things, as you said, as you were just saying, I got from you, that it's more about making it yours, making it work for you, and not thinking, not to try to inhabit someone else, but making it work for you. So I learned how to walk on stage and try to be elegant and try to be like a prince or try to be like a king, and so I think pretty much what you were saying, it was one of these things that you just have to make the role your own and just think of it as you would do it.
Yes. We're talking about a subject that you can spend all night discussing, because how do you make yourself be like someone else? You have to know their characteristics. You have to know what you would be like. Is that part? That's all very difficult.
Yes.
And you just don't make it happen 1, 2, 3. It's a very, now that's a very difficult. We can talk all night on that alone.
Yeah, but we don't have to beat that dead horse. I am a
dead horse.
I love you. I love you, Miss Arroyo.
I love you, but I don't call you Mr. whatever your name is.
Well, I have too much respect for you to call you by your first name. You know that. And I have always called you. If I tell people you're my auntie, how can I call you by your first name?
Well, you call your aunt Mrs. So-and-so?
I would say Aunt Martina then, if I say that.
Well, that's exactly what you would say. In school, I understand there's this respect and a distance, and we were not that close to each other in the beginning. We had to grow into that. But as years go on, and we've known each other over these years, those things have passed and those things have changed. And I expect that you have changed along with them. I certainly have.
Well, yes.
Or Mr. Royal.
Well, it's meant to honor you, but I will call you. Everybody, we have all of these people that we have, in the chat window over here. They all heard it. So if I call you Martina in public, I won't get scolded by you. Yes?
Oh, of course not. If you call me Leontine in public, I might at least stop you. I'm the other one.
Can I go back to some of these singers and some of these conductors that you worked with in the past? Some of these people were considered the great conductors or the great singers of all times in opera. Was there any conductor that stood out? And I know you worked with all of the greats, that you just felt like you were in the presence of a genius mind. I know you worked with Leonard Bernstein and some other people, but is it someone you thought, wow, this person just really inspires me and I've learned so much from that person?
Well, Leonard Bernstein would be one of the people. I thought Thomas Shippers gave a lot of himself, even though the public didn't realize that he was giving that amount. In a way, in the opera, every conductor that gets up and shares an evening with you by saying, "I want it at this tempo, will you follow me?" is giving something of himself, whether you take it or not.
Yes.
And you have to respond in order to make that work.
Exactly. And I'm sure that over the years that there were some that weren't as easy to work with, and I don't want you to give names, but in those situations, what did you do? Just kind of go ahead and just not try to focus on what these people were saying?
Larry, I have to tell you, I've had the most wonderful opportunities with the finest conductors and some of the toughest conductors, and I always got along with them. I don't know why, but if you're working music together and you're trying to produce something together, you have to come out as one. You can't come out as individuals. And I didn't usually.
So you were really in service of the music, and you thought that conductor and you together were trying to realize what that composer intended.
I can't think of any time that I thought that we were working against each other and against the music.
Yes. You never felt like someone was, well, we all know that there's ego involved in this career, and some people just feel like they have to reinvent it. So I didn't know if you had worked with someone that made the expression of music more difficult for you in that moment.
Yeah, I've worked with those people too, but you just turn it into your what you need at that moment, and you use it.
The same can be said about stage directors, correct?
And the same can be said of your tenor.
Well, we all know that the world loves tenors, and so
We
for
know
all
that. Okay. No, yes.
for all the great tenors that you worked with, and again, you don't have to give any names. Uh, but did you have to put up with some egos that you would have preferred not to have?
Oh, not only the tenors, excuse me, sopranos, mezzos, everybody. There have been some moment, or even some moment of their life, not even entirely their personality, when something can cause them to not be themselves, cause you to not be yourself. I mean, we have to deal with that, and they dealt with me, and I dealt with them, and that's all.
Yes. But of course, you were living in the time where the idea of the word diva, and I always think diva in a positive sense. Okay. I always think of that word in the positive sense. But when you have some of the divas, we've heard some of the stories of them, and you said you had to deal with some personalities. Was it really the idea that you had to have a certain public persona that made people say that all those people were divas?
No, you don't go by what all the people say. You go with your relationship with that person. It might be that it was a wonderful relationship. It might be that it worked that night and not another night, but that's the way it is. And the most important thing is that you put out your best performance possible with that person or without that person.
Well, we're getting some comments in the window over here, and Robert Sims says, "Ask Miss Arroyo about her experience with Andromache's farewell."
Andromache.
Yeah, excuse me, Andromache's farewell.
Yes, that was written not for me, but I was the first person to sing it with Thomas Shippers of the New York Philharmonic. And
Yeah,
it is a glorious piece. And I had to do the research for it, and we had many discussions about it, not which I don't think you do not very often with your conductor, but we had discussions and how she was going to say certain words and how she was going to sing them. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece.
and you lived. And how many times did you perform that piece, if I may ask?
Oh, in America and Europe. Well, not so many times as they were always. No, they were always there, but not so many times.
Right, and that was a memorable experience for you, obviously, and
Oh,
one of your finer memories as far as like one of the great things you did, something that wasn't the, what would you call it, the main repertoire.
well, it wasn't an operatic, even though the character was operatic in style. But she's a glorious person, and she was a glorious mother. She was dying, going to be killed, and her son. Well, she wasn't going to be killed. Her son was going to be taken and killed. She was going to be sent as a slave into the new world. But she was the wife of Hector, and it's this glorious story. And the story is told in the music with such sympathy. You felt every change, and when she's angry and she's ready to kill, and when she feels that her son, she's saying goodbye to him. It's all there in the music. You don't have to do a thing except sing it.
And so that was a pure joy for you to sing it, obviously.
It is.
Oh yes, and so that was so Andromache. Was that a concert work? Was it an oratorio or
No,
just
no, it's a concert piece. Yes.
it was a concert piece? And you did an equal amount of concert and opera, correct?
Yeah. Well, not equal amount. I sang much more opera in a
Okay.
way
Well,
because there was.
I know you sang the Verdi Requiem quite a
Yes,
bit,
a
which
lot of Verdi Requiem.
so that was another piece that, of course, is one of the celebrated pieces of concert work that people go time and time and time and time again. And I listened to that yesterday, and it was so beautifully sung. And did you feel like a certain connection to that piece? Yes, it was Verdi, but did you feel like there was something special about you and that piece, the Verdi Requiem?
Well, listen to the words. It's not so much that piece, but how she's saying what she's saying in that piece. You don't go. I mean, I don't. I go for the piece as it is handed to me with what I have to say, and that's all I can use.
But it's such so much so many memorable moments. And you did that piece with Leonard Bernstein, correct?
Yes, I did.
And did you feel like he had a particular affinity with the piece and that he wanted to create something? Of course, we have conductors that feel like they want to discover something that Verdi intended, but did he have a certain understanding with that piece that you appreciated with him?
Certainly brought something to the piece that was like an understanding, a feeling for the piece, and he passed it on to us, and we were to take it, but we were also bringing our feelings as well. So that between the two and the orchestra, we hope that the audience received as much as possible. But certainly with Lenny, I never worked with him that I felt he was distant from the piece. He was always a part of the piece.
Right. I never had the great pleasure of. Again, I know you, and I'm gonna stop. I'm in so awe of the career you had and all the people that you sang with, and I just look at this. I mean, you look at your career and just think, oh my gosh, and the recordings that you made, and it's.
Clearly, we all have our share to put in the career. That's all there is to it. When you got up and sang in your character, don't you think we felt the same thing? Don't you think we had the same awe? And more than that, of course, because I knew you didn't sing that well.
You we do know each other, and as I said before, I was at Indiana when you were teaching there, and there's a story that I have to tell everybody. When we were there, I don't know if you remember that time where I was working at the school and I was in the hallway and you flagged me down, and I don't know if it was that I was preparing to do a role or I had done a role on the stage, but you flagged me down and you said, "Come here, baby, I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." Like a nephew would say to his auntie.
And he said,
And
say
you
something bad too. Someone
you
in my family said, "Come here, baby, I will go in the other direction."
well, you didn't say anything bad to me that time. But no, you called me in your office and you said, "Listen, honey, I want you to know how to do your makeup. It is important that we look like the roles we're singing on stage. And this is something that you have to know for yourself." And then you spent the better part of the next 2 hours. You pulled makeup from your drawer in your office, in your studio at Indiana University, and you pulled out this makeup and you sat me down and step by step, you taught me how to do my makeup because it was important that we look like, and I remember you saying, we have to look like the roles we're playing. And everybody doesn't know how to do makeup for a person of color. And I remember distinctly you said you have to have red underneath the foundation so it appears that you have blood that's flowing. Because under the lights,
I feared that you had blood was flowing. No, no, but I know that we used the red with the lighter makeup over it so that it came out as and that was the style at that time. I don't know if people still do that.
well, they did when I first started, and it's changed over the years. But
Yeah.
I remember that was valuable and useful information for me because you wanted me to be able to represent myself well. And you had obviously learned this, correct?
Oh yes, you help each other. You don't go against or stand back and let them go by. You come. Even if they don't take the advice, have something to do with saying something at some point that might be of help. If it is of help, sometimes your information is just you think it's helpful, but the other person doesn't. But I don't think that was the case in this case.
Well, I mean, you could have let me go on by my merry way since I wasn't in your studio, but you cared enough about me that you pulled me off to the side. And I
Yeah.
know you were always supportive of my teacher, and you would always, just I know you were good friends with her as well,
Yeah.
but I thought it meant a lot that you, a teacher, because sometimes in university settings, it's not always easy to talk to someone else's student without that teacher having a problem with them or that you're speaking to
Well,
their
but I knew
student.
that I could speak with you because Connie was the type of woman that, well, she would just share. That's all. She would say something to my student as well.
but you cared about each other's. Well, I appreciate that, and that information for me was so wonderful. So I thank you for that. And you didn't have to do that. You didn't, but you did.
Larry, come on, man. This is a world where better we come off, all of us, the better it is. You don't let someone go in a direction that is not helpful to them and not stop them or not say something. You just don't do that. If you're able to watch someone go out there not looking their best or sounding their best or behaving their best, and you can stand by and accept that, then something's wrong with you.
I agree. I agree. I agree. And you've done it, so many times over the years, but not just with me, but other people. And that has to go into you teaching today. And of course, your foundation, wanting to have your foundation to continue to inspire and to teach all the young singers, the people of the future, the people even younger than me, and I'm not that young anymore.
Right? No, it's not absolutely right. You have to bring their attention to something needs to be done, or that this is good, keep it going. You don't just let people go and not say anything at all if you see that it needs work. Whether you
What,
can help them or they have to get someone else to help them.
so what was if I may ask you, what was the inspiration for you to start your foundation?
I wanted the character to continue the students continue to study the characters. I saw somebody who were going to school and came out and could sing a part and knew the part that they could sing, but they didn't know they have the slightest idea what they were singing or why they were singing it. And by having that studio class, we could work exactly that. I didn't do any vocal work with the students. And
Correct.
Mark would come in and I think he might have said something, but I certainly didn't. And he's so smart. I mean, he's so clever. He knew exactly how to approach people and how to make people understand because he cared about people. And I think that's what we need in this profession. We need more people who care about us and not just want to see us do badly.
Yes.
Wrong. And he was certainly an example of someone you could say, Mark, what do you think of that? And he put his finger right on it, and if he could, he would help.
Well,
And if he couldn't help, he didn't do anything.
well, my guest for next week is Mark Rucker. So,
Oh, no.
yes, Mark Rucker will be my guest. And I know he's been very, very involved in your foundation. And I know he has that same desire to help and to give back and to elevate, to see people succeed and to see people to really study and search and to try to be the best character or singer they can be. So, look, I'm finishing off the month strong. I have you and then him next week. So I'm doing a good job. Now,
God, you stay, okay?
I have a question. So, how often, when you're in New York and COVID's not looming in the world, how often do you go out to performances these days?
Well, at least I get out. And with the COVID, I haven't even been out of the doors. Out of doors, it's not fair to know that so much is going on and you're not a part of it. But please, every one of you, take care of yourself. Be safe. If it's not for you to go out this week, it will become next week the time for you to go. But I certainly know that the young people, I see them on the streets, are not all paying attention to what's being said. And I wish that we could go and grab them by the neck and say, honey, did you hear what's going on with you? Don't you think you should pay attention? But that we have too much to lose by not paying attention.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And of course, we're not going to talk politics, but this is a very, very important year. We shouldn't talk politics, right?
You shouldn't. I don't like him either.
Here's a question for you.
Yes.
You were awarded the Kennedy Center's honor, and you were recognized for your illustrious and world-class career and all that you've contributed to the world of music. Can you talk about what that experience meant to you?
Oh, it's so hard to talk about what an experience means to you. When someone says, that you do anything right, whether it's small or large. You're moved by it. You can't help but be moved if you think you're going in the right direction, and you don't know all the time, are you going in the right direction? Are you doing the right thing? But that honor was particularly wonderful because it wasn't really for me; it was for my parents. They had worked hard enough over the years to help me become whatever I have become. Um, it's not so much that those honors that I receive are for me. It's really for them to know that, well, really it was a lot of work, but something happened. And I think that those of us that are out in the profession now should do the best we can all the time, but not for just to get an award, but so that we can show that we're doing the best that we're allowed to be in this circumstance, under these circumstances, because of a parent or someone in your life that meant a great deal to you. And it's not just the parents; it's your voice teachers. Perhaps it's it's the people that stood by you, and you want to say to them, "Thank you."
Mm-hmm. My father told me a long time ago that every time I step out the house, I represent him and my family and
Right?
black people in general. And so what you're saying now,
Representing Buddhists.
but it was one of these things that, as you're saying, anything you do is, it's all the people that help you achieve all those things and all the sacrifices that were made for you that you could do all the things you did. Yes.
Well, you wouldn't have been able to do any of them without many of these people. And the only way you can say thank you is by being the best that you can be.
Yes. Was
Yes.
that? I'm sorry. I was
No,
gonna
no.
say. I was gonna say, was that experience even sweeter because you were just at 2 or 3 seats away from then President of the United States, Barack Obama? Was that something special?
Well, it was special sitting next to the president and his wife, but I wouldn't have behaved any other way in any other situation if he hadn't been sitting there or intending to come. Um, you are and you become what you are.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do it for any particular situation or any particular person. And I don't think he would have wanted that because I got the impression that this man wanted us to all live as well as we could.
And he was
And
kind to you, clearly.
he was kind to everyone. I didn't see him once or hear him say something that was unkind. I liked President. I didn't forget his name.
Obama.
I know that. Uh, I found him to be a wonderful, wonderful man, and his wife as well. And I really felt very close to them for those few hours that we were together because I felt that what they were saying, they meant.
Yes. And you were there with Herbie Hancock. Was it Herbie Hancock?
Herbie, yes.
Herbie Hancock, and of course Justice Sotomayor was there.
She's still in my life.
Oh, I love her. She is I had the great pleasure of meeting her as well, and she just seems like the most genuine person. And she is.
Yeah, and she'll come to the performances or not come to the performances, but this is a lady who enjoys the fact that we are doing things for us and for the country and for other organizations. We help each other out by doing the best we can for our situation.
Exactly. Here's a question for you. I know you retired from the stage a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But do you ever sing at home for yourself?
All the time.
You do?
Yeah.
What do you sing? Just whatever?
Well, whatever comes on the radio that I know, usually old songs. Nothing in particular. It's opera, if it's an opera that I'm particularly acquainted with. Oh, yes, I sing. Don't you sing a lot?
I try to.
Well, I try also.
I try, but do you ever think I still have it? Oh, wow.
No, I don't think nothing like that. I don't want to go any place but where I am. If I can help a young person or if I can teach someone something, that's fine. But no, not for myself.
Well, when you finally did retire from the stage, did you feel like it was the right timing, or were you just tired of traveling and all the the wear and tear of being on the planes and traveling so much? Was you just like, okay, I've had enough of this. Now I'm ready to move on to a different chapter of my life?
I don't know if I thought any of that. It just happened.
And you were performing, and then you just decided, I can
I
go back to my love of teaching and now teach young singers.
no, no. Is that a little baby talking?
No, no.
Oh, I think that either there were no more performances or no more discussion to be had or no more, things just peter out, and what remained was the teaching and the people who came to you to ask for advice. All of those things become important, and the performing part of it becomes less important of
R-
itself.
And was it hard to walk away?
Oh, sure. It wasn't hard to walk away. It was hard to stay, to want to go back. I never wanted to go back.
You never wanted to go back.
No.
You were
But
fine.
the young people and the young singers, and I think, my God, aren't they great? I don't think I have the wherewithal to get up there and do it anymore. It's about time for other people. You do your job and you get off the pot, and that's it. And then someone else comes along and then they do your job.
But I get off the pot, and
I didn't mean to say that, but it came
I
out.
love it. But that's the thing about you that I love. You are always going to, yes, and please never change, never change. But when you were having this idea that you're like, okay, I'm teaching now, and it's other people's chance. Now you put your energy into seeing other people succeed and excel. Yes.
Wonderful when I hear someone else get up and sing "O Patria Mia" or some other aria or some duet beautifully. I get such a good feeling because I know that what she's putting into it to make it that beautiful. You
Yes.
know,
And obviously, it brings back memories of when you were on the stage. And it's not about you in that moment, but of course, you relive a moment because leading up to that high note in O Patria Mia, you're sitting there in the audience. Have you had that experience and just had something come over you where you just all in yourself just put back on stage?
when someone else is singing "O Patria Mia," for example, when no, that's the no. On the contrary, honey, it's your job. You that's key work.
You said, "Oh gosh, here goes. You have to deal with this, not me, right?"
I don't see a goodbye, honey. You better do it yourself because I'm not about to try it. No, it's not that. It's that you hand over it's somebody else's turn.
Yes.
And it's,
Now,
they do it well, and you hope for them to do it well.
well, you want them to do well. And even, I mean, I'm still fairly young in the business, but I tell people all the time, I'm never competing with someone else. I'm always competing with myself, and not competing with myself. I just want to do my best. That's all.
That's it.
That's all. And so I'm not one of these singers that someone else has to be not good in order for me to be good. Someone else has to be, I have to wish someone ill will. I'm not that person that I have to wish someone ill will in order for me to think that I can succeed. And so I've never been that way because
John, if you were like that, you really would. That's a sad situation to be in. The
exactly.
better he does it, the better I sounded. You'll remember me is even better.
Right. And when I see people do good, it's always inspired me to get my rear end in the practice room to work on my stuff so I can be the best that I can be. I've always been that way.
Well, stay that way.
I'm trying to. But here's a question I have for you. Living in that time, of course, and, with all due respect, I mean, you are amongst all the great singers, but you had, of course, Miss Price, a bit before you in some of your contemporaries, Miss Verrett, Miss Bumry, of course, all these other names, and even after you with Miss Norman and Miss Kathleen Battle.
They were around our time, too. They were singing when we were singing.
Yes, and I know they're just a tad bit younger, but they were all contemporaries, essentially, of you. And so we younger singers, if you want to call us that, we heard of the great divas of the past. And again, as I said before, a lot of people will have a negative spin on that, but I think it's positive because I think it's a distinguished female artist. Was there any times that some of these personalities became too much?
Some of the people that we would refer to, that their personalities became too much.
Right, in the sense of they were truly divas in the way, and of course, not saying names, but true divas in the sense of being not always kind to colleagues.
Oh, those
And
are pains in the neck. Those are not divas. Diva, when something goes well for another person, you're just as happy because you remember how it feels to have things go well. You don't want anything to happen to them that's unkind.
you
Why should
shouldn't.
you want anything to go badly for them?
But even when, for example, of course, the famous quote that we saw on Johnny Carson when they were talking about Leontine Price, and someone called you Leontine Price, and you said, "Oh no, honey, I'm the other one." It was no, it was all positivity in that statement, correct?
Of course. This was a time when people would get us because we were so close together. She came out first, and then it's easy to call me Miss Price, but there was no problem with that. You could call me Miss Price all day long and send me her check too if you want to. No,
Were
not
you,
that said about things. Let that get to me. No.
but you were friends with many of them, even
Another thing.
I actually spoke to Felicia Weathers, who she Felicia Weathers, and I'm definitely going to try to get her on here as well. We had a wonderful conversation, and she's such a sweetheart. But she talked so highly and so sweetly about you. You know that, yes?
No, I didn't know that, but I'm glad to hear it. Because she doesn't, I'll get on here and talk about. My goodness. We were all friends. We did things together.
Yes. You used to go out and hit the town in New York City or in the,
And hit
around
the
the world.
No, no, that could easily be misconstrued. We did not hit the town. We would see each other and sit and listen to recordings together.
Oh, you used to sit and listen to recordings.
Yes.
Can I ask you?
Not if
I'll
it's
t-
not going to embarrass me, no.
I'll try not to embarrass you. Um, one of your when you used to sit and listen to recordings, is there a voice that you said, "Oh, now that is simply just"? I mean, maybe there's many, but you just said, "Oh my gosh, that is just simply God sent." Is there a voice that spoke to you that way?
Oh, yes, Leontine and Renata Tebaldi, those, um, gosh, yes. Whatever they sang, I received a message from it. And
Yes.
it wasn't a comparative message. It wasn't, oh, I sing it better or I sing it worse or anything. No, it's just I'm listening to her or whoever she is, and it's giving me great pleasure.
Oh
And I
my.
Miss Price many, many times, and I can't tell you how you just how can you not enjoy it for goodness sakes? You listen to
Right.
Miss Vivaldi and her. How can you not enjoy it? You just sit back and let it pour over you.
Yes. And what about, I mean, of course, Miss Anderson, Marian Anderson at that time, she was an iconic figure and she didn't sing so much opera. But was that another voice that, because of who she was as a black woman, were you inspired by her as well?
Absolutely. I knew her. We used to go to her home, not very often, but have coffee on a Sunday morning, and we'd take biscuits and things, and we'd eat together. She was an incredible lady. She was an incredible lady. And I can say it one more time. She was an incredible lady.
I feel like I'm living in a dream. You're like, yes, I was friends with Miss Price and Miss Anderson and all these other people. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Well,
I guess
you can't blame us for that.
well, I admire the fact, oh my gosh, it truly was a time in this business. So when you go to the operas today, it is just pure enjoyment for you, correct?
Absolutely. But when you go to the opera, you find yourself when someone is singing a part that you also say, you breathe with them, you're living it with them and you don't even realize it. I remember once going to a performance and with my husband, and I was breathing with this, and when she didn't breathe, and I had breathe, I was upset myself, and he would say, "Will you relax? You're spoiling it for me. Will you please relax?"
I remember Michel. I
Oh, he,
do.
he was a doll.
What a sweet man he was. And so Both of you were so kind to me and the dogs and all that other stuff. Yes, I remember those times with great, um, great admiration and just great memories for me. Our time at Indiana University, Miss Arroyo, Martina, Auntie Martina. I'm not gonna keep you all day, but I am just so thank you for sharing your Sunday evening where you could have been watching something on TV, or I don't know what you're doing in these days, but you decided that you would spend time with. One of the things I cherish, I have a picture with you, George Shirley, Vincent Cole, Roberta Alexander, and Harolyn Blackwell. And that
Oh,
is a picture that I will cherish for the rest of my days. But it's just, I am just
you have
honored.
that picture? Can you have a copy made and send it to me, please?
I absolutely can have a copy made and send it to you. That is just one of my favorite pictures in the world because
Well,
everyone is so great.
well, not because of that, but because we were together and not fighting.
No, that it was. I think it was for something. It was in New York City for something, and we had a wonderful time. And I just remember thinking, oh, it's just nice to be in the present. Of course, George Shirley, who I had on here, and someone asked me if I could post the photo. I don't know if I have the photo somewhere where I could post it right at this moment. Oh, there it is. Let me see if I can post it in the window. It's gonna have to go over your face for a second. But can you see that photo?
Yes, I can't make things out very well, but I can see that there's a
Yes,
photo that, or you're putting
that's
something over my face.
that's well, your face is shown in other places as well. So, I mean, it's another picture of your face, but it's Vincent Cole, Roberta Alexander, George
Uh,
Shirley, Harolyn Blackwell, Martina Arroyo, and some other Joe Schmo who I don't know who shouldn't be in the picture,
no, I didn't recognize the other people you named.
but he's honored to be in the picture with you. So,
All
thank you,
right.
Miss Arroyo. Thank you, Miss Martina, Auntie Martina. Thank you for spending time with me on this Sunday evening.
Thank you, my darling, and just keep going the way you've been going, always up, and don't look back.
Thank you. Love you much. And we will
Love
see you soon once this COVID is over. Yes?
Okay, as soon as it's over, I expect the next day for you to be ringing my bell.
And I will. Auntie, I'm here. There you go.
Bring your children with you. That's what I want to see.
I absolutely will. And so I'll leave them with you for 5 minutes and then
Now
you'll
don't go
want me to
back.
bring them home.
Okay, bye now.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love Auntie Martina. Thank you all. Thank you, DeAndre and Frederick and Michelle and Jim Lieberthal and Lemmy, my boy Lemmy and Rachel Cooper and Barbara Wright Pryor and Leon Brown, Seth Chodosh and Robin Carpenter and Troy. Yes, donate now to Martina Arroyo's Prelude to Performance. She's still helping, inspiring, touching the lives of many, many, many people. So go to her foundation. Thank you all for being here. Keebler Hawley, Christopher Brooks, so Ricky Epps. I'm just going to say some names. David Simmons, thank you for being here. Kelvin Page, I see you. So many people, Barbara Ann Maddox and Pinky's Down. Oh, that's a nice name. Pinky's Down Rosenfeld, Mark Thomas, Mark Doss was here earlier. Mark Rucker. Thank you, DeAndre Simmons. I think you already said your name, but I appreciate you all. Next week, as I said before, I will have Mark Rucker. Mark Rucker will be here on the Sit Down with LB. So definitely make sure you come back next week for another episode of the Sit Down with LB. Take care. See you next week.